we have more convenience today than we've had, I think, in the history of the world. But we're more in the mode of passion now than ever before. What's the mode of passion? How's the mode of passion described in Bhagavad Gita? Basic symptom is you're never satisfied. That's the mode of passion.
Desires.
So, for the economy to function, it's necessary, it's fundamental that nobody's satisfied. Because if people are satisfied, they won't spend money. They'll only spend money on what they need. They won't spend money on what they want. So, what advertising has to do is create false needs. Needs you don't have. That's good advertising. You read advertising, you look at it and you say, I want this. Your whole life you didn't have it and now you want it. So they're making you think you're incomplete if you don't have it. Or you won't get the woman, or the people won't respect you, or you won't be happy. Right? So we need to expand and enthuse the mode of passion, keep the economy going. That's the whole problem. And so what happens where there's an economic crisis? Everybody's extremely worried. And what if people decided, we want to move out of the city, live on the land? It'd be a crisis. And the presidents of countries would say, don't do that. Right? When you know what the message was? George Bush's message after 9/11, a few days after 9/11? He said, don't let Al-Qaeda know we're defeated. Go shopping. That was his message. Go shopping. And he once said that our soldiers are in Afghanistan fighting so we can enjoy our freedom. Go shopping. So these people are giving their lives so we can go to the mall. So in Prabhupada's books he talks a lot about passion and ignorance and the result of passion and ignorance in relation to taking another birth. If you die in passion or ignorance, you either go down or you take birth on this planet. So, Haribol. It's very interesting. Very interesting how it works. Just like children. When children are a certain age, they'll go somewhere, but they won't understand the purpose of the place. So like sometimes they'll go in a house and they'll take valuable things and they'll start playing with it. And then you find them and you say, oh, no, put that down. Because they don't know. Because to them everything is a toy. Right? Anything they can get their hand on, they'll play with. It could be a Rolex watch. 5 lakh Rolex watch. And they'll play with it, they'll throw it around. They don't know. Right? They don't understand the purpose till they're older. So, the way Shastra describes us, the same way. That we're in this world, and to us, everything's just a toy to play with. Right? Just accumulate and play with it. And so we don't understand what's the purpose of everything. Why does it exist? And even worse than the child, the scripture says we don't even understand who we are. That we don't know why we're here and who we are. So therefore, what do? Like if you're somewhere and you really don't understand what you're supposed to do and why you're there, you ask somebody, what should I do? Right? And they say, you should do this. And then you do it. Right? So in this world, we don't know why we're here. We don't know who we are. So who tells us what to do? The modes of nature. They tell us, oh, you're here to control everything and enjoy it, so just do that. And then we don't question it, and that's what we do. That's life. That's it, in a nutshell. And then in a civilized society, you have Brahmins who say, no, that's not why you're here. It's just like you have children, right? So let's say you save all your money and you send your children to Harvard, which will cost you like $80,000 a year, I think. Some outrageous amount. Schools in America are expensive. Even the inexpensive ones are expensive by Indian standards. So you send your kids to school, they got 4 or 5 years, and they give you a call, and they say, I just decided I'm going to stay in school. It's so much fun. And what do you say? So I spent all this money so you can stay in school. No, but we party every night. It's so much fun. And if I leave the school, I have to work. So I'm just going to stay here. Then what will you say? Say you're crazy. Purpose of school is not to stay there, it's to get out. Right?
He's listening to the class. He's listening to the class.
He's becoming enlightened. So, think of this world like a school. And life gives us so many instructions to get out of the school. And what's the school? It's called the school of samsara. Birth and death, that's the school, right? And so life, by living and by hearing from sadhus and shastra, we're supposed to understand the goal is not to stay. But we're having a good time here, so we don't want to leave. So we call up Krishna and say, no, I'm going to stay here. Krishna said, but no, I sent you the Bhagavad Gita to get you out. He said, no, I want to stay. Having fun here. It's the same thing. Exactly the same. So you forget why you're in school. Now you have no desire to get out. And everything's good. Your parents are paying for everything. So might as well just stay and party. I bet you don't realize how much they party in the West, in colleges. You can't imagine. They have bars in the colleges. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. Kids come back. In England, this devotee went to school. She was 18. She's going to college, about an hour from where she lives, and she has a room in the dorm. And all night till 2 a.m, kids are coming back drunk, yelling and screaming. And she got so freaked out, she dropped out of the college. She couldn't deal with it. And I think about 40% of the people in that dorm moved out. And that's weeknights. That's not even a weekend. At least in America, they wait till the weekend or Thursday. Because in England, they like to drink. You believe that? This is, your parents are spending all this money so you can learn how to party and drink. It's crazy. But our position is the same. Hey, we're in this school called life. We got this great opportunity, and we say, hey, let's enjoy it. Let's party. and we'll just stay here. That's it. And nobody's worried about it. Hey, I'm happy, everything's good. Why rock the boat? Right? That's a classic textbook example of Maya. Just like if I want to steal something from you, I'll make you think I'm your friend. I'll make you think you can trust me. And then you go out to the store to buy something and I steal everything you have and leave. So Maya's like that. Maya's so expert. Paints a picture, everything's fine. You're happy, everything's good. Just do a little puja. Just give a little money, you're good. It's an insurance policy. Little incense, little coconut, little banana, little puja, samskar, little donation. You're good. Your family's good, you've got your insurance. You reserved your next body by that process. And you don't realize it. So, for those who are more serious about spiritual life, then Prabhupada addresses them, and he says, be prepared fully for going back home, back to Godhead. These are his words. Be prepared fully for going back home, back to Godhead. Just like yesterday I came to Bangalore. So, if you went to my house on Thursday night, you'd have to ask me, are you ready to go? And I'd say, kind of, sort of. I threw everything I wanted to take out of my bed, but I didn't pack up till the morning. So Thursday night I wasn't really ready to go. So now if we ask you, are you fully prepared to go back home, back to Godhead? Are you packed and ready? What's the answer? So that's Prabhupada's statement. Be fully prepared. So I was reading yesterday, one of the things that Maya does is, she goes like this. Here's spiritual life, and she goes, she keeps you, somehow or other you don't get there. That's her job. She keeps you, and she keeps you from having clear vision. Just like in the Gita, it says, we're spirit soul, and materialistic people try to understand it, try to see it, and they can't. So Maya goes like this. And then she covers. She has two potencies. The other one is she covers. And what's the covering? Everything's okay. I've totally cheated you. You have no idea I've cheated you. Everything's okay. And what does everything okay mean? I'm happy. So then we have this story, this classic story of Indra becomes a pig. You know that we all know the story, right? And then Narada Muni comes, says, Indra.
Time to go.
And Indra says,
I'm happy.
yeah, that's the classic example of Maya. It doesn't matter how low you go, you'll think you're happy. So, it's an illusion which requires forgetting who we are and forgetting why we're here. And Maya is very good at doing that. And we're okay with it. And we're proud. I have my family, I have all these nice things. I'm successful. And we completely miss the point. Now, there's a very good reason for this. If you understand why this is happening and why we're susceptible, then you can begin to pull yourself out of it. And that's why in the Gita, Krishna says the chapter on the modes of nature is the most important chapter, because it shows us how we got in this mess. And number one, it shows you it is a mess, because otherwise we may not even realize it's a mess. So it is a mess, how we got into it and how we get out of it. So it's actually quite simple how we got into it. We all know. The two propensities, we all know the philosophy, the two propensities what? To control and to enjoy. So Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the controller, so these are propensities which compete with Krishna. The reality is we are the enjoyed, not the enjoyer, right? And we enjoy by being enjoyed. That's the reality. And obviously we're not the controller, we have a little bit of control, not a whole lot. So, at one point in the history of our sojourn in the universe, this desire to control and enjoy became very powerful, very strong. And sometimes when a kid gets so bad, you don't know what to do with them, you kick them out of the house. You say, get out of here, I can't deal with it. You send them to boarding school, or you send them out on the street. Some kids get just thrown out of the house. They're on the street. Some devotees have told me that their parents kicked them out when they were teenagers. They were so obnoxious that parents just kicked them out. So that's basically what happened to us. Okay, that's it. We can't tolerate you here anymore. You're obnoxious. Out of here. Okay, so now we come here. And now we're fully programmed with this bhav mentality of enjoying and controlling. It's firmly implanted. And we begin our exploration of what? Controlling and enjoying. So controlling means what? Power. Enjoyment means what? Accumulation. So what are the two strongest desires that people have? To get things and control things. Isn't it? Accumulate and control. I mean, accumulate and enjoy, for the purpose of enjoyment. So these propensities are almost hardwired in our consciousness, virtually, when we come in this world. That was our mission, right? If you go somewhere and you have a mission, a reason, you're very if you go somewhere and you have a mission, a reason, that's like everything you do is to support that reason. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you went somewhere with a mission and it got to the point where the reason wasn't even fulfilling you anymore, but somehow or other you were there and you did it. So that's why you went to do it. Like sometimes you go on a vacation and you go somewhere and it's not working out, but you're already there, so you just do it. So we are hardwired with enjoyment, the desire to enjoy and control. That's why we came here. That's the mission. That's the reason. It's almost like wartime. The soldiers will go out with a mission to conquer, and then the war's over, and they just want to like do the last mission because they took all the trouble to come. Let's just do it anyway. No, you don't have to. The war's over. No. So we have this mission. Okay. And I think by now, trying to practice Krishna consciousness, we are very aware of how strong the propensity is to enjoy and control. Have you noticed? Have you noticed that what you think about the most is yourself? Have you noticed that? You say, no, I think about my kids or my wife or my husband, but that's yourself also. It's not like you're thinking about the person a mile from here. I'll have to serve them. I love them. Let's go bring them something to eat or buy them a sari. No. You do that for your cousin, your mother, your relative. It's all because it's serving them is serving you. You get the same happiness or more giving something to your relative. Right? So, if you think about it, tomorrow, think about be aware of how much you think about yourself. Do I like this? Don't I like this? Is this comfortable? Will this make me happy? Can I get more if I do this? Can I make this easier? So you go to the mall and you see, oh, they have this new thing. You just put the flour in it. It makes chapati. So that'll be easier. Okay, let me get that. If I can afford it, I'll get it. And it's just, we're wired that way, right? Maybe I should get a new car. It's better. It's nicer. You sit in it. Yeah, this feels good. You don't really need it, but you can afford it. It's just the way we're wired, right? Isn't it? If you make 10 crores of rupee every month, you don't live in a little house, do you? You live in a big one. It's just, it's just the way we are. Unless you're Warren Buffett. He lives in a little house. Same house he's lived in for 50 years or whatever. But it's just the way we are. That's how we're wired. And control. You like to control? You like to control? We all like to control. Right? We get upset when things are out of control. Americans come to India, something that takes 15 seconds in America takes 3 days in India. We go crazy. Why can't you just do that? No, because it has to go to him and he has to stamp it and then he has to take it over to the other side and they have to sign 3 signatures and bring it. But in America, it just takes 15 seconds. Why can't? No. We go crazy. It doesn't make sense to us. You used to see it in India. You used to see Americans. The reason you could see, they're American because they were screaming and yelling at everybody. Because they couldn't deal with it. That things didn't work that way. So we all want things to work out. We want things to control. We want to be in charge. We want people to do what we say. Okay, so that all makes sense because that's why we came here. Right? It makes sense. That's the mission. That's why we left Krishna. Because we couldn't do it there, right? Because there's already somebody that was doing it. So, what's the example Prabhupada gives? The child says, Mommy, can I cook? And you say, yeah. And you give them a play set of cooking paraphernalia. And they sit down and they pretend they're cooking. Oh, Krishna, can we enjoy? Yeah, here.
What do you like?
Here's the material world. You can play with it. Right? So now we come in here to enjoy and control. And you see that in kids. The propensity to enjoy and control is fully manifest from like the day they come out of the womb. It's been cultured. It's been developed over lifetimes. It's practically hardwired in our psyche. Right? So here's the problem. And this is why it's important to understand this. When we come in the material world, we want to enjoy, and the Paramatma helps us. And Prabhupada says he knows how we want to enjoy. Even if we forget from one lifetime to another, he reminds us, this is what you wanted. So he directs us and he impels us to go in a certain way. So he's helping us enjoy. That's what he's doing. In material consciousness. He's just assisting us. So we have the desire to control, the desire to enjoy, and then the Paramatma assisting us. And this creates a certain mentality. And the mentality is understandable because it's what we want. It's a mentality that suits what we want. Now we become devotees. What's the problem? The problem is we have that mentality. That's the problem. Right? And so sometimes a devotee, someone who's practicing spiritual life, they complain. What do they complain about? They complain about themselves. Because when you come to spiritual life, you begin to understand what is real and you begin to understand what you should desire. And ideals are given to you, and ways of thinking are given to you, and behaviors are given to you, and you're told to monitor your behavior and your characteristics to see if you're developing them. Overcome your envy, your jealousy, and so forth. And so you begin practicing spiritual life, but we've come from this position where we're wired differently. For how many lifetimes? Prabhupada said Ravi Shankar was such a great sitar player because he had been playing sitar for 1,000 lifetimes. Yeah. So how many lifetimes have we been practicing controller and enjoyer consciousness? We're really good at it. As I said, you can see with children. You see, right, from the beginning. It's like they don't have to learn. They're enjoying and trying to control everything, isn't it? So now we become devotees. It's all been given to us, and then we start complaining about the conditioning. Oh, I want to be a devotee, but I don't, but there's like all this whole string of buts, which all reflects conditioning. But my mind, and I have such a desire, I'm such an enjoyer, I'm such a big controller, and all right, so now we understand why there's a problem, because we've been programmed. And an interesting thing is Prabhupada uses the word conditioned, and psychologists use the word conditioned. They both use it. He uses this word over and over and over again. We are conditioned by the modes of nature. Okay, now, I don't know if I've given you this example, but I use this example sometimes to illustrate material life. You draw a circle, little circle in the middle, and just draw a big circle first, and a little circle in the middle with arrows going towards the circle. In material life, who's in the middle? Who's in that circle? We are. Okay. Then you go to pious life, religious life, not spiritual life. Who's in the circle? You and God. Because you have God. You say, listen, God, I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back. Right? So I'll let you in the center, as long as you help me get what I want. And I'll give you some of it. And spiritual life is God's in the center, you're outside. So what is one of the basic teachings of the Gita? You can enjoy your work, but not the fruits. Right? Isn't that one of the most fundamental? Naishkarmyam. Work, but don't be attached. Why? Why is that instruction there? Because the programming, the practical hardwiring is, I'm the center, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller. So, the first instruction is, give up the fruits. Get out of the center. Who do you give the fruits to? Give them to Krishna. Get out of the center. As long as you're in the center, you're in big trouble. That's why that instruction is there. It's just trying to get us out of the center. It's trying to reorient the conditioning, which is to always be in the center, everything for me. And if I'm pious, then I'll offer some things to God with the hope of getting return, so that I can enjoy. I could enjoy more if I have God on my side. As I often joke, you offer God a banana, some incense, a coconut, some camphor, as a bribe. Say, hey, listen, I've given this to you. All I'm asking for is 10 crore. And you spend 50 rupees on the plate, your banana and your coconut. Hey, that's a good investment. You do business with God, you get a good return. So I'll do that. And I'm pious, so I believe in God, and I know it's the right thing. So the first step, where Krishna's saying in the beginning of the Gita, he's saying, Naishkarmyam, do it, but don't be attached to the results. So now you're starting to reframe your conditioning and consciousness. The beginning. What's the beginning? We come into this world we're in the center. And the goal is Krishna's in the center. And the goal, what's the goal? The goal is to do everything out of love for Krishna. And this is really difficult. We've heard this, but this is really difficult principle. You know why it's difficult? Because we don't really understand what love is. Because even the love we have for our family, it's so much connected with ourself. It's such an extension of our ego that it's not really the pure conception of love. And if you understand Krishna's psychology, all he wants is affection. That's all he wants. And that's all he's asking. Right? Isn't it? Offer me with love. That's all he's asking. I mean, if you understand the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, that's all it is. But it has to go first disentangled. So we're going this way. It's like, slow down. Just do your work, but don't do it for yourself. Offer the fruits of your work. Not out of love, just offer them. Do the right thing. Right? So I was telling Madhusudan Hari that Aristotle said, do the right thing the right way, but he added the last principle, which is the bhakti principle, with the right feeling. So karma is the right thing in the right way, and bhakti is the right thing in the right way with the right mood. That's the third principle, right? So first Krishna's saying, slow it down and just start getting out of the center and the fruits you offer to me. Didn't even talk about offer me with love and devotion. That came later. And so, in the end of the Gita, when Krishna says sarva dhamman parityaja, what is he doing? He's basically saying, all the other things is not really the goal. Just offering to me is not the goal. What's the famous verse everyone chants?
Sarva dhamman parityaja?
No, the other one. You were telling me in the car, I said that. Give the fruits to Krishna.
Yeah, karmane vadikaraste.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody knows that verse, right? But that's just the preliminary step. That's not the goal. Krishna's Rasaraj. So all Krishna's looking for is love. But because of our conditioning, it's really hard to get that principle. That's what it's about. That spiritual life is about love. Affection, mood. So, how do we understand that? Well, you look in the Shastra, you look in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and how does it define pure devotional service? It says, you serve Krishna without any motive to get anything. That's pretty hard, isn't it? Hey Krishna, you know, I did a lot of service for you, so can we talk now?
Can we negotiate?
Yeah, I'll negotiate a few things here that aren't going well in my life. Could you add a few zeros to my bank statement? Could you make some adjustments in these people in my life that are driving me crazy? Things of that nature, right? Because the desire to control and enjoy is so strong, but if we have piety, it's really hard not to ask Krishna, isn't it? Just to do it out of love and not ask. But that's the goal, right? So now, very interesting thing. We understand the conditioning. It's very clear. We came on a mission and it's still there. And so, as devotees, we are supposed to reprogram it. And who reprograms it? Paramatma. And how does Paramatma reprogram it? You tell him what the program is. And he reprograms it. And he gives you the mentality. So if it's not reprogrammed well, it's because we haven't told Paramatma well enough the program we want. Because he's only the programmer. He just does the programming. But you have to tell him what you want the program to do. Right? It's like if you hire a programmer, he doesn't know what to do until you tell them. right? Well, I have this business, we have to keep track of this and that and that. Now he understands. Okay, I can write software that will do that. So what are we telling the Paramatma? If we're complaining, oh my mind, oh this, oh that, it's only the Paramatma reciprocating with what we programmed it to do. If I want to be the enjoyer and controller, all right, I become a devotee, so maybe a little less enjoyer and controller. Maybe I'll be a small enjoyer, a small controller. But the goal is, Krishna's the enjoyer and controller, not me. So we, by our desire, through the use of intelligence, we are telling the Paramatma what we want, and then he's giving it. Now, think of a pure devotee. What's a pure devotee? Does a pure devotee have any personal desire? Nothing. I mean, just let's use Prabhupada as an example. You take Prabhupada coming to America. What was his desire? To see America? To get some disciples? Get some rich Americans? He had no personal desire at all. Zero. Right? Nothing. That's exactly why he was successful. So that's the goal, right? That's it. That's what Krishna is teaching in the Gita. From this point of conditioned to the point of, I don't want anything, I just want to love Krishna. That's all Krishna wants. It's all he wants. That's all he's looking for. Nothing else. More than anything. That's it. So, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, very interesting verse for this discussion. Because naturally, we're saying, okay, I've studied the scripture, I understand the goal is pure. At least I should serve Krishna, but ideally serve him purely. I understand that's the goal. But I'm conditioned. I have so many samskars. I'm expert at enjoying and controlling. I've done it for lifetimes. I'm really good at it. Comes naturally. I don't have to think about it. I put people down. I fault find in my sleep. I've been doing it for lifetimes. It's just my nature. Okay. All right. But I understand that's wrong and it's not the goal. So now what happens? We begin the process of bhakti. And bhajana kriya means when you practice. So we're practicing. What comes after bhajana kriya? Bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti. Yeah. So we're practicing with anarthas. Anartha nivritti comes later. And anartha nivritti isn't complete. It's just the anarthas reduce their energy. But the understanding is that these anarthas remain on some level, on some degree. Even the ones that are destroyed, there's the example of you clean a pot and it's got camphor in it, but once you clean it, you can still smell it. So a lot of the anarthas, you can still smell them. Right? So there's this verse in the Bhagavatam. And the devotee, it's actually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he's showing how the devotee thinks. And he says something very interesting. He says, praying to Krishna, and he says, even though I have these anarthas, if it's your desire that they're there, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Because even though they exist, it's not going to budge me from serving you. What's that all about? Because usually when we have desires, they move us to fulfill them. And he's saying, I have these desires, but they're not going to move me. So what does that mean? Determination. And it means, at least in my understanding, aside from, in addition to the determination, it means there's a connection a connection that the devotee makes between intelligence and desire and sincerity. In other words, if you think when you started becoming Krishna conscious, there were transformations going on. Things were starting to click, weren't they? Things were starting to make sense. Things were changing in your life. And you started to find within your heart some sincerity and some desire to get out of the material world. You started to understand, hey, this is a trap. I've been here for millions of lifetimes. There's something higher. There's a higher purpose in life, and there's even a higher pleasure. And something clicked at a point, and you said, I want to do this. And that pulled you up a little bit out of the material world. Right? Now, for us, from America, it was a major transition because we had no cultural background at all connected with anything Vedic. So it was like, and you might question, how can you do that? How can you just pull yourself out? It's quite amazing when you think about it. You look at these people who were taking drugs, the hippies taking drugs, free sex, not clean, and they became devotees within a very short time. How did they do that? They heard. It made sense. They began chanting. A desire was awakening in their heart. There was a sincerity, a desire to know why they're alive, a desire to know God, a desire to connect. All these things happened, and then just pulled out of Maya. If you were betting on people getting out of Maya, you would not bet on hippies doing it. Right? You wouldn't invest in a bet, would you? 1965, we're all sitting around, Prabhupada's going to America. Let's take a bet he can make devotees. Nobody would lay any money on it. Because objectively, you look at these people and say, there is no way they can get out of Maya. Right? Look what they're doing. Look how they're living. That's what the Godbrothers, Prabhupada's Godbrothers said. They said, these people won't become devotees. They can't. Malechas, Yavanas. So, how did they do it? The same way you did it. Something clicked. Right? And you said, okay, I'm doing this. Something inside you said, I'm doing this. And everything changed. When you made that commitment, all that conditioning, everything, it didn't matter anymore. You're working against it now. Right? All that programming, I'm enjoyer, I'm in this, doesn't matter. I'm serving Krishna. Okay. Hold that thought. Hold that consciousness. We go back to that prayer, and the devotee saying, even though I'm full of all these material desires, even though I'm full of anarthas, nothing will budge me from serving you. Why? Because that thing that brought us to Krishna consciousness, that pulled us out, that devotee in his prayer, he's saying, I'm connected to that. I'm not connected to the anarthas. And that's why I can do it, despite the anarthas. In other words, the anarthas have no energy. You ever feel in your life the anarthas have energy? Because we lost connection with that sincerity, that intention, that determination that we had. Because if you catch on to it, those anarthas are just there, but they have no function in your life anymore. It's like you're going somewhere, you have things in the way, but you have no use for them, so you can neglect them. It's only when we see the anarthas as useful that they have energy. So coming from the conditioned state, getting out of the conditioned state, there's this stage called Bhajana Kriya, and that's the stage where the anarthas are pretty strong. And they can pull you away unless you're very connected to the very thing that got you out in the first place, which is Krishna. Nothing will budge me from my desire to serve you. You're so connected with that these anarthas, they lose their power. That's called the mode of goodness. You can't do that in the mode of passion. And certainly you can't do that in the mode of ignorance. What is the mode of ignorance? The mode of ignorance is somebody comes, they hear the Gita, they hear, yes, you're not this body, you're spirit soul, you're eternal, you're blissful, you're full of knowledge, you're a servant of Krishna, you're entangled in the material world for millions of lifetimes. Krishna wants you back. This is the real life. And you say, okay, but you don't do anything. That's the mode of ignorance. How does Krishna describe the mode of ignorance? You don't go beyond the dreaming stage. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And that's as far as it gets. Right? That's the mode of ignorance. That's the yeah, but platform. Yeah, but. Right? That's the mode of ignorance. I know I should, but. Classic example of the mode of ignorance. Right? We talked about the word conditioned. So here's an example of conditioning. It's called the mode of ignorance. This is the example of what happens in the mode of ignorance? If you allow ignorance to dominate your life, even though you understand what to do, you won't do it. There's no willpower to do it. That's ignorance. Right? Okay, what happens in passion? In passion, I understand what to do, but I've got a million desires to fulfill, so I've got no time for it. I understand it, but I'm completely bound up by desire. And I can't stop it. It won't stop. I'm just reacting. I need this, I want this. I'm just totally impelled by this passionate nature, and I can't stop. It's only in goodness that we can say, this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to do. And therefore, when we became devotees, we acted from that platform. Because if we acted in ignorance or in passion, we wouldn't be here now. Right? So now it's interesting, understanding this, how in many places in the scripture and many things that Prabhupada says, he describes how we should live in goodness. Because in goodness, then intelligence works, willpower works, conscious works. If you're off, you're aware of it. I just read something really interesting. I came across this by accident, but it said guilt is a symptom of goodness because it's an awareness that something's wrong. And if you're in ignorance, you kind of bury it. You don't want to deal with it that it's wrong. But in goodness, you say, oh, something's wrong. I should do something about it. And the yogis call it Dharma Indriya, the sense of Dharma, because it allows you to see when you're off. Isn't that interesting? Or they call it conscience. Dharma Indriya is conscience. Have you ever been off and just ignored it? Just it could be something physical or spiritual or practical. And I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, it's going in a bad direction. It'll be okay. Don't worry about it. And there's an emotion inside you that's saying, this is not right, but you neglect it. That's ignorance. But in goodness, you're aware of it. It's interesting, isn't it? So really, when you look at the whole process of conditioning, then you go to this point where Krishna's saying, now just do it for me without attachment. That's the mode of goodness. The mode of passion is do it and get the result. It might be the same thing you're doing, the same job, the same whatever, but one's for you, one's for Krishna. Passion, goodness. In ignorance, you don't even care. So I think this what we have to really connect more deeply with to overcome the conditioning is that the two things of understanding the connection with the sincerity, the desire that brought us to Krishna consciousness, and actions in the mode of goodness, because it keeps that alive. Passion and ignorance covers it. Now what happens is when you first become a devotee, you're coming out of a life which is not satisfactory to you. So it tends to, you have this momentum under you, right? It's pushing you. You know, your life's not perfect. Things could be better. Krishna consciousness is nice. It's a nice society. Everything's good. You're reading, you're studying. Things are making sense. So there's this push. What happens after a while to the push? It's not there anymore. It has to come from something else, something higher than just life is miserable. Doesn't it? Because if you become a devotee after a while, it's not miserable at all. It's quite nice. And maybe your life was pretty nice before you were a devotee, but you understood you could make it better. So it's got to come from something higher. And so if we don't cultivate aspects of goodness in our life, it makes it more difficult to be connected with that. Because in goodness, you want to hear something about goodness? What happens in goodness? Okay, you have this phenomena, I know, but. Right? And you have the phenomena, I know, and I'm going to do it. Right? You have both. Or you have the phenomena, I know, and I'm going to do it so I can be honored. That's passion. I'm going to do it to get, I know I should do this, and I'm going to do it because I can get something. That's passion. I know I'm going to do it, but, I know I should do it, but I'm too lazy or too whatever. That's ignorance. I know I'm going to do it, and I do it. That's goodness. Right? Goodness is where willpower is fully manifest. In ignorance, willpower practically doesn't exist. So, to be Krishna conscious, at least if we're situated in goodness, we have a good fighting chance, because in goodness, all that conditioning is not going to influence us very much. When you're in passion and ignorance, that's what Prabhupada means by conditioned soul. In passion, the desire to enjoy and control is very powerful. Isn't it? And in ignorance, it's just nothing happens. But in goodness is where there's clarity. And desires are subdued a bit. So then, when your intelligence sees something, you can actually do it because you don't have all these desires in the way, and you have the willpower, and you have the control to do it. In goodness, you can control your mind. When devotees say, oh my, I would do this, but my mind is so much. That's passion and ignorance. When you say, my mind, but I don't listen to it, that's goodness. So when this devotee is saying, all these anarthas are there, but it doesn't budge me, that's goodness. That's connection with higher consciousness, higher principles. Right? That's where we need to be. Otherwise, and then, of course, beyond that, we do it to please Krishna. Now, big problem for devotees living in the city, as the city is firmly fixed in the mode of passion. And just by being in a city, you become passionate. Right? If you go to Mayapur, quiet down. Even if you just go to Mauritius, which is a nice island, you'll quiet down. I live there. People come there. I go, feels so peaceful. Because it's not so passionate. So we're in a passionate environment. We're not in an ideal environment. So we have to create enough sattva in our life so we don't become overcome by passion. Right? Now, what's a common problem for devotees? Getting up early. Right? Because early is a mode of goodness. And we're not mostly in goodness. We're in passion or some ignorance. Right? So it's hard to get up early. It's hard to go to bed early. Right? Then we don't chant our rounds in the morning. This is a vicious cycle, right? Here's the thought. Because this is very important. Because it's like Krishna gave us the morning. It's like Krishna saying, here's a gift. The whole day is in the mode of passion. You're living in a city. But here's the morning. Sattva guna. You just be up in the morning. your mind will be clear. All the nasty things happen at night. They don't happen at 4 in the morning. They happen at 12 at night. Right? You get up in the morning, you read, you study, you pray, you do puja, you chant. This is my gift to you. Just like the dhams are gifts. You go to the dham, you can feel it's a gift. As soon as you go there, you just become revived. It's like you've gone to intensive care and you've got intravenous and you've got oxygen. Going to the dham is like that. It's just you're dying and you go there and you get rejuvenated. So the early morning is Krishna's gift. It's totally in Sattva Gun. Even if you're not in Sattva Gun, you get up, you'll be in Sattva Gun. Unless you're heavily in Tamagun, you'll fall asleep. But considering that you'd be awake, you'd got enough rest and you're awake. So, think of it that way, that we need to cultivate goodness. And that's one of the best ways to cultivate, right? I tell devotees, there's a thought that I have. I joined ISKCON and lived as a brahmachari for many years. So I'll just tell you what our life was like, just to give you an idea. So I joined, I was 19, and I moved into the temple in the winter, and I would say it was about 12 degrees. No, it was colder than that. It's hard for me to calculate Fahrenheit and Celsius.
Yes.
You have it on your
I'll do
40. It was like in the low 40s.
Low 40, something like 36,
No, like
35,
Fahrenheit?
40 degrees Fahrenheit.
40 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's below
40
zero.
degrees.
No, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is Celsius, what, like 12?
5 degrees.
No, 48
It's-
degrees
it's
is
4 degrees.
zero, I think, no?
No,
36
Around
is
4
zero.
degrees, 4.5 degrees.
35 or
Okay, let's say 5 degrees. Yeah,
5 degrees
35
Celsius.
yeah, like 5 degrees, yeah.
It's 5 degrees
So
Celsius.
it's like 5 degrees. There's no heat, and we sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag, and there's no mat on the floor. And then we take a cold shower. That's how we lived. Right? And then we did the morning program, took breakfast, cleaned the temple, and went out on Harinam Sankirtan. All day, took lunch, came back at 6 in the evening, had Bhagavad Gita class 3 days a week, and the other 3 days we went out on Harinam till 9 o'clock at night. And we're actually going to bed at 11 o'clock and getting up at 4. That's how we were living. So it was a lot of austerity, right? And we had one vehicle, so every, 18, 20 devotees, if we went anywhere, would go in one vehicle. There were no seats. We just all sit in the back of a big van. We were 19, 20. It wasn't that difficult, but still, some austerity was there, right? Then I was transferred to Vancouver, and we lived in a rented industrial building, and the heat was centrally controlled. So heat didn't come on till 7 or 8 in the morning, and it was Canada in the winter. It was snowing. So this is below freezing. This is below 0 centigrade. Freezing, right?
Very cool.
So that's how we lived. And then we go out on Harinam Sankirtan all day, and it was snowing, and the hands were freezing. And we didn't have any money. It was like we didn't hardly know how to pay the rent. It was very difficult. And also sleeping on the floor, no mat, nothing. Then, at one point, I went to South Africa, and they were sleeping on little mats, like this thick, like less than an inch thick. And I thought, these brahmacharis are in complete maya. They're actually sleeping on a mat on the floor this thick. Just relative to how we were living, I thought a 1-inch mat was total maya,
A luxury.
a total luxury. Something's wrong here. So, call the GBC, set these people straight. They're sleeping on a mat. So just give you an idea. And then sometimes we would travel in a van, and we would just all sleep next to one another in a van. Sometimes in the snow, no heat. Take showers outside with ice or water, like living like that. So obviously, in the present time in ISKCON, most people who are joining already married, and they're not going to go live like that, right? So even now for myself, I'm living in Mayapur. When I first came to Mayapur in 1975, I was given a room which was about 4.5 feet high, which means we couldn't stand up in the room. We'd hunch over, walk in the room. I don't know why it was so low. Maybe maybe it was 5 feet tall, and the Bengalis weren't taller than that. It was the rooms for workers. Workers moved out. And then next to Prabhupada's Samadhi, there's a kunda, and that's where we bathed. It wasn't confiscated. We just walk in the mud, in the dark, couldn't see anything, and we bathed there. And there was one little outhouse for us. For all the devotees, a little outhouse outside. And then they'd feed us the same prasadam the workers ate. Just like nobody could eat it, everybody got sick. So it was like typical life in ISKCON. And a lot of the men were sleeping on the balcony of the conch, well, there wasn't a conch, the Lotus building, because the rooms were filled. And so they set up outside. So that's how we're living, right? So now I'm in Mayapur, right? We're renting an apartment. It's about 1,500 square feet apartment. That's like 500 square meter apartment. And it's got a beautiful balcony, enclosed windows, and it's got a patio outside. And I get nice prasadam. And we have a lady who cleans the house. She does the laundry. And we have a little motor scooter. I have a bicycle. It was like unheard of. Nobody even had a motorcycle in Mayapur before 1990. It was just totally unheard of, right? So I was looking at all of this, comparing it to how I grew up as a brahmachari. Even as a grihasta. In early days of ISKCON, grihastas had one room with no furniture. So here, we'd have a house, many bedrooms, and a grihasta would have one room. Here's your room. So even as grihastas, we were sleeping on the floor. One room. Not 3 rooms, 4 rooms. One room. No kitchen. We'd eat temple prasadam. So I was thinking, okay, we have to do some austerity. We can't practice spiritual life without doing some austerity. So what's the best austerity? At least get up early in the morning. At least do that one austerity. Okay, you don't have to take a cold shower if you don't want to. It's not even that cold here. Go to London. They take cold showers in London. I live there. They take cold showers in London. That's cold in the winter. At least do that austerity. Get up early. We have to do some austerity. Otherwise, what's our life? There's no austerity. It's just comfort and enjoyment. That's not what life's about. Right? So, what better austerity? Get up early. Do some austerity. Okay, you want to sleep late? All right. Get up early. It's an austerity. Prabhupada said, many places Prabhupada said, we are busy from 4 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. Have you ever heard that? Prabhupada say that? Anyone ever heard that? And he said that because we wake the deities up at 4 o'clock, and by the time you put them to sleep and everything, it's 10 o'clock. So he said, we're busy from 4 in the morning till 10 at night. So, in so many places, Prabhupada said, we rise by 4 a.m. And he said, if you sleep too much, it's a mode of ignorance, rise by 4 a.m. So now we're going back to 2 things, austerity and rising early. So at least we should have to do some austerity. It's purifying. Do things which keep us in the mode of goodness. What we eat, how much we eat, how we think affects the mode we're in. We're given all these ways to think in the Shastra. How should we think? What's the right attitude? This devotee achieved something and I wanted it. What should be my attitude? Ignorance, passion, or goodness? What's ignorance? I'm going to try to get it from him. What's passion? I'm just angry. What's goodness? Prabhu, I'm so happy. Right? So even by our attitude, we're being affected by modes of nature. Right? So, we want to recondition our thinking by living more in goodness. And that way, we're more connected with our spiritual desire, and those anarthas they won't have much influence. They'll be there, but they won't do much. It's like, I have a little pain in my hip, but it's all right. I can still walk, I can run, I can play basketball. I can tolerate it. So anarthas are like that. We learn to tolerate them, and gradually the energy goes down. And you know, if you have a pain in your body and you focus too much on it, what happens? It starts to handicap you. Sometimes with your kids, they go, I can't do this because my hand hurts. Right? Then their friend comes over and they run out and they're playing with their hand. Right? Just like that. Anyway. We are conditioned souls, conditioned by the three modes of nature, and the goal is to get out of them. And if we live our life in them, when we trap us, we get more entangled within them. And we're living in the cities in Kali Yuga, which is firmly situated in passion and ignorance. And we don't want to be like everybody else. Right? There's no qualification to be like everybody else. Be sattvic. Don't be like everybody else. And the nice thing also about it is when you come to Sattva Gun, because it's not so self-centered, then you can think about other people. And you can give your energy to helping other people. Did I ever tell you this story? These devotees were loading, I was in Los Angeles, 1973. They were loading a van with peanuts and raisins. And loading a van with books. I said, what's going on? They said, we're going on the road for 3 weeks. I said, well, what's with the peanuts and raisins? They said, that's all we're eating. We don't want to cook. It's a waste of time. Just to give you a little glimpse into what was going on in ISKCON in those days in terms of spreading Krishna consciousness. Isn't that amazing? It was this willingness to sacrifice for the benefit of others. So, we don't want to waste time shopping and cooking. Let's just eat this. Peanuts and raisins. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Simplify. And then we can be on the street all day, 9 in the morning till 9 at night, distributing books. So why do you think they were thinking like this? Where do you think it came from? It came from Prabhupada. Because he was thinking about helping people. And so it just trickled down. I could tell you a lot of crazy stories, if you want to hear them.
Yes.
It gets you. I think the most amazing, what's really amazing, and it makes this point really well, is that the people who are thinking like this, who are thinking about helping other people to the extent of making extreme self-sacrifice, 1 or 2 years earlier were complete, drugged out, sex-crazed hippies. So how did they make that transformation? It's because they got out of the mode of ignorance, out of the mode of passion, into goodness, and everything became clear in goodness. Isn't that amazing? You think about it? And whose hearts were just thinking about other people. Who were giving up everything, dropped out of college. Sometimes their parents wouldn't even talk to them when they did it. If you become a devotee, I won't talk to you. I'm becoming a devotee. How could they do that? What a transformation. So I think when we see this, we can understand that transformation is possible for us to make it at every moment, at every second. And we have to always be making it. Because otherwise the modes will just pull us back into that old condition, I'm enjoyer, I'm controller. And then we'll complain about our minds. The verse in the Gita, 13:21, the living entity is the cause of his own suffering and enjoyment. So we cause our own suffering, then we complain about it. I always laugh when devotees complain about their conditioning. I say, Prabhu, but you're the one who conditioned it. You programmed it. You're yelling at the software, but you're the one who wrote it. You don't like it, change it. So it's that simple. We don't like the program, let's change it to a different program. I'm servant. Is that a better program? Because all our problems are founded in false ego. And false ego means I'm controller and enjoyer. That's where it all comes from. The whole material creation is based on false ego. If nobody had false ego, it would be finished. Right? It would be gone. It wouldn't be here. The devotees asked Prabhupada, why Krishna created this material creation? And Prabhupada said, because you wanted it. It's based on false ego. And then the devotees are, Prabhupada's talking about celibacy, and the devotees saying, but Prabhupada, if everybody's celibate, then the world won't go on. He said, why does the world have to go on? Why does this useless world have to go on? It only goes on for material enjoyment. Why do you want to bring people into this world? You see? Why does it go on? It only goes on for people to enjoy it. But if there's no one to enjoy it, if everyone's ego is I'm servant of Krishna, there's no need for it. And we think it's important. And we totally forget that whatever we're doing in this life, we already did it thousands of lives before. And now we have this chance where Prabhupada says, be prepared fully back home, to go fully back home, back to Godhead. And we're thinking, maybe. I'll think about it. Maybe this life, maybe another. I don't know. That's our misfortune. Right? Prabhupada said, you are on the verge of deathlessness. Right? He didn't mean you're on the verge of dying. He means you're on the verge of eternity. You're on the verge of it. So don't miss out. You're right on the edge. And if you ask Prabhupada how to do it, Prabhupada, how do we do this? How do we become Krishna conscious? He's going to tell you the same thing, no matter how many times you ask. Chant 16 rounds, follow the regular principles, rise early, take bath, serve Krishna. There are hundreds and hundreds of letters and lectures in which Prabhupada said that. Not complicated. He didn't change anything. In fact, this one devotee compiled all the letters about how to be Krishna conscious. And she read them in one workshop. And it was Prabhupada saying the same thing over and over again in slightly different ways. Our program is very simple. We chant Hare Krishna. We take prasadam. We read Bhagavatam. We chant our rounds. Follow the principles. The next letter. So how to become Krishna conscious? Our process is we chant 16 rounds. Follow the regular principles. Kirtan. This process of Krishna consciousness is not very difficult. We simply chant 16 rounds, follow it. She went on for 20 minutes reading. So if you want to be Krishna conscious, what you do is chant. Because these are transcendental activities, and these activities pull you out of the modes of nature. You don't even have to, in that sense, practice goodness. They're transcendental automatically. Goodness is contained. Right? So then, if we're having trouble in our life, it's because we're living in these modes of nature. And within these modes of nature comes this conditioning. And then what happens? When you get out of the conditioning, you know what happens? One of the first symptoms is everything about Krishna becomes attractive. Then you want to read. I know many of you don't read. The newspaper is attractive. The news is attractive. Bhagavad Gita is not attractive. That's a symptom of passion and ignorance. When you're living a life more of goodness, all of a sudden things about Krishna become attractive. You want to read about them. You don't want to read People magazine or whatever magazine you have here. What do you have? What do you call it? Mahajan magazine? Bollywood Mahajans? Something like that. We have People in America. This star got divorced. This star is pregnant. This star we got a picture without makeup. She's really ugly. And that's the magazine, and you know who got divorced, who's getting married, who cheated on who. And everybody's enamored by it because they know how to act and they have pretty faces for a few years, right? And then when they don't have pretty faces anymore, they get smeared all over these magazines. She's ugly now. She put on 10 pounds. We don't like her anymore, right? And everyone's absorbed like that. So that's what happens. It's like Krishna, when you do it right, it reinforces itself. So it becomes easier. And easier and easier and easier. Right? And the devotee who can't read, he's got the Bhagavad Gita open, he's crying, thinking that Krishna was driving Arjuna's chariot. Where's his consciousness to think like that? He's not thinking about what he's got to do tomorrow to compete with the other guy and step on his face. You know, that's not bhakti. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll stop talking. Thank you very much. So we'll give you all a call tomorrow at 4 o'clock, wake you up. I should have a little phone. They have that one call and it calls everybody. You have that service here?
No.
They have in America. You can.
Okay, it's a circular thing.
You make a call and you put all the numbers on it, and then the computer calls everybody.
Oh.
Like if you have a.
It's an automatic thing.
Yeah, it's like you put the message in, like we're doing the program next week. So you make an announcement.
Yeah.
You record the message, and the computer sends it to everybody's phone.
Yeah, the SMS. Yeah, that we have. SMS you have.
Oh yeah, we have voice. This is voice, not text. Yeah. Anyway, your phone rings, and you get a message.
We often get messages from Ravindra at 4 o'clock dot. Message comes.
Oh, you get all those those advertisers calling your phone. That's how they do it. Yeah.
Those messages. And then phone. It's SMS.
SMS.
You get a message at 4 in the morning. Haribol Prabhu, it's 4 o'clock.
We have a devotee here in
No,
Bangalore.
that's SMS. Prabhu Singh, the
He
phone
sends
will
us,
ring.
yeah,
You didn't get the point.
I know that.
Prabhu Singh, the phone will
Phone rings. That facility is not there. No.
Yeah. Anyway.
The SMS facility is there.
Anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is because for me, growing up as a brahmachari in the temple, I have a certain perspective on what Krishna consciousness is because I live that way. So when I became a grihasta, that's just how I lived because that's what I understood it to be. So I'm trying to bring that perspective to you, that these are foundational principles. And this is how we advance, and even if we're grihastas. I came up with this idea. I was thinking, before you talked to me about teaching the Gita, I was thinking of this idea for Gita called the everyday sadhu. So the teaching of the Gita is everyday sadhu. They were all meant to be sadhus. Because I know the mentality is, as grihastas, we don't think we're supposed to be sadhus. We kind of have it rationalized in another way. So that's the idea, the everyday sadhu. So we're all supposed to be sadhus. And so we can all be the everyday sadhakas. So, we should be living our life very similar to how devotees live in the ashram.
But there are many devotees who share their experience with all of us. They have not been brahmacharis at any time. They were basically leading.
They joined as
life.
grihastas.
They went to higher institutes, America, here and there. They acquired degrees. Until such time they joined ISKCON. Their lifestyle was different. But now it's very different. Radheshyam Prabhu from Pune
Yeah.
is one good example for this. His life was like that till he finished his IIT. But as soon as he joined ISKCON, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
he became
Perfect.
like that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the goal. Shoot for it. Get out of passion and ignorance. You'll be happy. Okay? Read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. That's the news of the spiritual world. If you're attached to news of this world, then this is where you'll live. You'll live in this. Your consciousness will be in this world. If you're attached to talking about things in this world, that's your ticket for another body. If you're attached to talking about things in the spiritual world, that's your ticket to the spiritual world. That's how it works, right? If you're attached to doing things of this world, that's your ticket to another body. If you're attached to doing things of the spiritual world, that's your ticket to the spiritual world. That's how it works.
Our current activities are a preparation.
Yeah, exactly.
that we should-
Yeah. Yeah. You go to college, then you learn something, you become qualified, then you can be hired. So we want to get hired to Vaikuntha. Right? Okay, you want to take prasadam?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.